Josh Pieters, welcome to Clickbaited. We're going to get your take on a number of headlines that you've featured in over the years.
Great. I don't know what you've collected about me. Hopefully all positive headlines.
Yeah, of course. Nothing negative. Nah.
Okay.
Over the last 6 months, you've uploaded one video, which we're about to talk about. You know, prior to that, you've done all these different pranks. What was your thought process when you were coming up with pranks? And why have you just made the decision to kind of fully step away from it now?
Thought process when coming up with pranks, it was like, it was a bit of an evolution, to be honest with you. It started with finding sort of hacks to things like hatching a supermarket egg from Sainsbury's, a quail's egg, and then listing the microwave in my kitchen as a restaurant on Deliveroo, and finding these like hacks and things. And that developed then into pulling tricks and sort of hacking systems to trick celebrities essentially, or bad faith sort of actors. I suppose a lot of just reading newspapers was how we like thought of things to go after, like whether it be a Deliveroo or an Airbnb or a Katie Hopkins or a Piers Corbin. It was a lot about like what was happening in the news at that time, and then finding a creative way of satirizing them, I guess, or pranking them. And that was really tiring and also just a bit depressing. It felt like I was always looking for the negative side of things or the negativity in things and looking to exploit that. And I just wasn't enjoying it anymore. And I also started to think a bit like, yeah, these people have done these things, and it's fair enough to point those things out, but I'm not a perfect person. Like, I'm sure if someone wanted to, they could string me up in some sort of way or make me out to be some sort of bad person.
Yeah.
So I just fell out of love with it. And, I felt a bit trapped in it as well, because I was like, well, this is my career and it's what I'm good at. And it's like what gets views on YouTube. But I think it could have become a really horrible place to be. And I didn't like the sort of way it was going. So
For what it's worth, I never thought you came across as malicious in any of your content. Was it getting to a point where it was getting hard to actually pull anything off because of how well known you are?
Yeah, that was definitely becoming a thing as well. Yeah, you'd get recognized more, but that wasn't the main thing. I think it just wasn't fulfilling me or making me happy anymore. As I said, I started our production company, Goon Squad Productions, 2 years ago. And we create my YouTube content as well as branded content for brands. And I just really started finding fulfillment in that. I love people and working with a team, and that running that business now with, we've got a team of 7 at the moment. That is what I enjoy. I enjoy seeing those people every day and like taking things on with them, and creating adverts, and now creating the documentaries we make, rather than scouring newspapers to find who the next person that we need to prank is. And as it so happens, there are a lot of bad people out there at the moment. But I think the world's become more nuanced as well. Like, I think it's harder to outright say like, this is a bad person, this is a good person. With like social media and how it's advancing, I think we're all realizing that things aren't as binary as they appeared to us 10 years ago, 20 years ago. It's very hard to form an opinion on things now, because there is so much nuance to every conflict, story, tragedy, whatever's happening in the world. It's not so clear cut. And yeah, it was becoming hard for me to go like, well, does this person deserve this? Or should I really? Am I so great? Should I be the one pointing their flaws out? And yeah, it stopped enjoying it and wanted to change tack.
With prank content, what is it about it that's so appealing to you, or was appealing to you at the time?
I think like growing up, a lot of the content I enjoyed watching. I grew up with, Jackass and Ali G and Borat, and I really enjoyed a lot of that content. So I think it was just naturally what I wanted to do, what I enjoyed making. But I also just really enjoyed that edge of your seat, sort of coerced fuckery, basically, of doing some of the stuff we did.
Is it a bit of a thrill when you're doing it? Like, is there a lot of adrenaline going?
You feel sick as well. But I suppose maybe it's down to pushing myself. I thought these are challenging things to do, and I'll be rewarded if I can stick it and get through it. And maybe that's got something to do with being competitive and sport. I don't know. I feel like I'm doing my own therapy session now, but
that's fine.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what it was that made me go into that, but all I can say is I grew up watching a lot of that content. It was actually a series of videos I'd done on TikTok that made me want to get into documentary filmmaking, which was we made this series where we would wait outside of prisons and interview prisoners as they were released, which turned out to be quite an emotional and interesting series. You'd speak to these people as they were released who were ultimately happy because they'd just been released out of prison, but their stories were so tragic, and the prison system evidently was shown to us to be so broken in that most of the people we spoke to had been in prison over 10 times. So you were interviewing these people and they're like, I'll probably be back here next month. And being able to just talk to people in a natural way without me having to be a sort of exaggerated version of myself, I really enjoyed. And just interviewing people and hearing their stories, I realized that was what I wanted to do. And that's what led me to then want to make documentaries.
Okay, let's take a look at the first headline.
OnlyFans model who slept with 100 men in a day, not a victim, claims man who made documentary about her.
Yeah, so you made a great documentary on Lily Phillips back in December 2024. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that documentary and what it included?
Yeah, so as I said, we decided we wanted to go into the world of documentary making. I saw a tweet from Lily Phillips, who I wasn't aware of at that point, saying, I will be sleeping with 100 men in a single day on the 17th of October, sign up here, which I thought I wasn't sure if it was real, seemed crazy. Looked into it, turns out by all intents and purposes it was real. And then one of our producers, Lizzie, had worked on a Channel 4 show where Lily had actually been a contributor. So she had a contact for her. We reached out, said, is this true? She said yes. Said, we're looking to make a documentary about it. Could we follow you on your journey of doing this? And she said, that's absolutely fine. So we filmed with her before, asked her, why she was doing it, how her career works, how her business works, whether she was excited for it, what her parents thought about it. Asked her a lot of questions, then got to the actual day of the stunt itself, where we spoke to her beforehand, we left while it was taking place, and then came back afterwards, and then concluded the documentary there. But it was a real journey.
Yeah, so you went to the house. It felt like in the documentary there was a lot of she was kind of hot and cold with you, her team were hot and cold with you. Was it really difficult to film something like that?
Yeah, I think they'd maybe underestimated the kind of event they were hosting. And I think beforehand they're like, oh, it'll be fine. They'll just be there and film and da-da-da-da-da. But as the day went on, I think things were quite disorganized and they then just didn't want a camera crew there. So we were always really respectful of them and, wouldn't go near the house without their permission, which we always got. But yeah, they definitely... I don't think we're anticipating how difficult that day was going to be for them.
What was the biggest shock for you about the whole thing?
The biggest shock for me about the whole thing was, I think, just how nonchalant Lily and her team were about hosting the event before it happened. Hosting an event for 100 people, whether they're going to be having sex with each other or not, is not just like a small feat.
It's a logistics game, isn't it?
Yeah, and they were just like, yeah, we're going to Newcastle the night before. We get in at 1 a.m. and then we're doing this thing at 8 a.m. the next morning. And it was like, yeah, they just were very unprepared.
Back to the headline, you said she's not a victim. Can you elaborate a little bit further on that? And, I guess, did you have a lot of people kind of contacting you because of this, trying to give their opinion on it?
Yeah, I think she's not a victim because she's 23 years old. She's extremely successful. She knows what she's doing. She's running a big business and she has chosen to do this. And I think in our society, by the time you're an adult with free will and you're not sort of under duress or in a compromising situation, we have to be able to respect people for the decisions they make or judge them on the decisions they make. And I think it would be, she wouldn't want you to call her a victim. She believes that she is doing what she loves. And in fact, she says that if you took the money out of it, she'd still be doing it. I don't know how true that is, but...
Yeah. Do you believe her on that?
No.
When was the last time did you speak to Lily?
Last time I spoke to Lily was before the documentary went up, but our producer Lizzie has been in contact with her from before we started filming, all throughout filming, after filming and after it went up. We had an aftercare team in place as well to make sure that like Lily and her team had anything they might have needed. After the documentary went out, it obviously went extremely big, and there are a lot of nasty things being said, and a lot of judgment and controversy and all sorts of press attention. So we made sure that we were constantly in contact with her, and that she had, access to anything she might need.
Yeah. So if we talk about just the video, if we take away the subject, if we talk about it just from a content point of view, you've been doing pranks all this time, and then suddenly you throw out this hugely hard-hitting documentary. When I remember I was traveling over to the US and I downloaded it because I was like, I obviously liked your stuff already. I was like, this is a little bit different. I wonder what's going to happen here. Download it. But even when I watched it after like 2 days, I think it had like 50K views. Yeah. What was the massive turning point for that video? What changed it?
So yeah, it was kind of just going along like a normal YouTube video. It was getting a lot of comments and a lot of interaction. So I thought like it will probably catch the algorithm at some point. But, it was also completely different content to anything I'd put up before. It was 47 minutes long. It was a documentary, very different to what viewers would have expected on my channel. So I'm sure YouTube was just trying to place it correctly. And then a tweet I put up, which was the moment of her sort of crying at the end, just exploded on X. I think it now has like 220 million views or something. Elon Musk quote tweeted it. Russell Brand, Ben Shapiro, all the winners. They all got involved. I think Andrew Tate as well.
All the boys.
Yeah, all the boys got involved. I just can't believe how much that documentary upset right-wing men.
Yeah.
Like, who knew they were so sensitive? They were just so angry at this woman having sex with a load of guys. Like, sure, I understand like the problems with it, and I don't advocate for it, and I'm not sure where I stand on it, but of all the things these guys claim to be and the way they are, like, it was just funny to see them so angry about this. I got invited to church a lot. We had like 6 separate emails because the video went quite big in America. Like 6 separate emails being like, please, can you come to our church with Lily so we can cure you? And like, yeah, but that tweet then blew up. Then the YouTube video started growing, and from there it just sort of went crazy everywhere.
Did it end up getting demonetized, or did it have any sort of age restriction?
Yeah, like halfway through.
So did you end up making any money from it, or not really?
A small amount, but like we also, it took us 4 months to make, and we've got like a full-time team of 7. So it's not, the branded content we create is probably more the revenue side of our business. We obviously want to keep making documentaries and try and grow out like a documentaries team and see what we can create out of it in the future. But like, the money was sort of minimal.
Do you think that your creating that has helped positively or negatively in terms of your career when it comes to documentary, working with brands, general kind of awareness of who you are?
It's definitely helped with awareness of who I am. I think, I don't think it's affected brands. I think it shows that, if you actually watch the documentary, it's a fairly like balanced piece of journalism rather than like anything too sort of salacious or bad. And I think it shows that we're also people who understand the internet and know what is topical and what people want to watch. I see Stacey Dooley's doing something with Lily Phillips now, kind of sums up the TV world versus the online world. Like they're sort of, it's 6 months later. So I think it highlights that we are kind of finger on the pulse of what's going on. I think we'd probably leave it there in terms of that type of content. The theme we're going for with our documentaries is untold stories of the online world. Okay. So the next one we've got coming out at the end of June is a lot happier. But it's all around the Brit Crew YouTubers. Yes. So the first generation of YouTubers in the UK, how they started, how they sort of pioneered a career.
Do you want to list off some of the names just for people to recognize?
So like Alfie, Days, Zoella, Marcus Butler, Casper Lee, Joe Sugg, Naomi Smart, Jim Chapman, all of these like OGs of YouTube, how they started, where they are now, and how they look back on this career, because for a lot of them, when they started YouTube, they were just making videos in their bedroom. They never thought they would be famous. And a lot of them were quite, socially anxious people or slightly different, which is why they were filming videos in their bedroom. Yeah. And all of a sudden they had to start like interacting with random people on the street and people screaming out their names, and seeing how that's affected them has been really interesting, chatting to them, hearing those stories. So it's a bit of a nostalgia trip, but it's also very interesting, and it's got sort of interesting themes of, mental health and dealing with fame and all those kinds of things. So
do you think those guys would be famous now for their content, or do you think YouTube's just too competitive for those kind of personalities to emerge through?
Well, we talk about this in the documentary, and it's an interesting one because it's almost like that question of would a footballer in the 50s be able to play Premier League football now? Probably not. But like without those footballers in the 50s, there would have never been the progression to get to like the elite sort of athlete we have now. So while these guys maybe made super basic content back then, it was their unique skill, or what made them special was the self-belief and just creativity to think, I'm going to film myself and put it on a website and maybe people will watch it. Like, I would have never thought of that. Even though arguably I can make a good YouTube video now, it took something more to believe in yourself enough to think, I'm just going to put videos of myself on the internet and maybe that'll be a thing. So it's like hard to compare, because obviously the quality of the content now is so much better.
Yeah, it is. I think it's incredibly hard to, as we all know, I guess, to make content. And I remember, I think is it Zoella? And yeah, for some reason I just always remember a little documentary about her and Alfie, and they just seemed to live very normal lives. Yeah, and it didn't seem like they were in like huge. You have this vision of popular YouTuber, they're going to be in this huge mansion. They're going to be.
Oh, they are.
Well, they are now. But I guess back then, it's like it was all very relatable.
Yeah, and I think that was it. Like, I think we've become also accustomed to watching content now because everyone's a broadcaster. If you've got an Instagram account, you are an international broadcaster. Whether you've got 500 followers, whatever it is, if your account's public, anyone, anywhere in the world, except maybe some countries where Instagram's banned, can watch your content. But in 2010, 12, that wasn't the case. The concept of someone in South Africa like Casper putting a video up and someone in America being able to watch it was so new and interesting. And it was like, oh, look, there's this 15-year-old guy, same age as me, making videos about things I know about, but he's from a different country, he lives a different life. I want to just watch. I don't care how sort of dull or slow or like laborious the content is. The fact that that is possible is interesting to me. But we've obviously become so numb to that now because I can put up an Instagram story and anyone can watch it, and that's just the world now.
What's your dream documentary to make? Like, what's if you could just have any access to anyone to do anything, who would it be?
There's a man called Jeremy Fragrance. No, right. I don't know if you've heard of Jeremy Fragrance. I think I have, yeah. But he's cool. He is the #1 fragrance influencer who follows the teachings of Jesus.
That is achievable.
He's awesome. Well, he's got 10 million followers on TikTok.
Yeah.
He's got great dance moves. And he's the #1 fragrance influencer who follows the teachings of Jesus. And we are trying to get a hold of him.
Well, hopefully this will help.
Yeah, hopefully.
We've heard it, Jerry Fragrant. This is his favorite podcast.
Oh, he's honestly, he's a dream.
So we want to test your strength capabilities right now.
Okay.
With a grip strength test.
Oh my. I'm not the biggest guy, but apparently I'm wiry.
Here's a leaderboard of people. So I'm obviously number 2, 120 pounds.
Yeah, Mark Rover seems really strong. I've never met him, but he looks strong.
He is.
Yeah.
He is. And I think he's got extra powers from the hat he always wears.
Yeah.
It's feeding him steroids at the same time. So yeah, the average man's around 101 pounds. I was 120. I've tried it today. I was a lot less, but at the time, I promise it was that.
I'm nervous. 1, 2. That's pathetic.
Right, try again. 93.6.
I don't think it works.
You want to try to stand it up?
You just humiliating me. Because I don't think it's going to get any better. Okay, maybe if I give myself like a...
Yeah, give yourself a real...
my whole body.
Yeah, try it.
I don't fucking shit myself. What? 99.2.
Oh, that'll do.
Leave it there.
Well, we can try it at the end. You can think about the result. One of your less controversial pranks is our next headline. So one that didn't really have any sort of negative outcomes.
Yeah, this was fun.
If you can read that for us.
YouTuber baits Tiger King's Carole Baskin with fake Jimmy Fallon show. This was fun.
Yeah, so talk us through the prank and how you kind of got Carole.
Yeah, so this was during COVID, right? Now, I don't know if you remember, but all the big late shows were doing their interviews remotely because of social distancing. So like James Corden had a setup in his house.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was really in his house or not. Jimmy Fallon the same. All of these big talk show hosts. And they would patch in celebrities to interview them. I saw Piers Morgan was interviewing someone for GMB, also from a remote location. And I remember watching that and realizing that the person he was interviewing actually couldn't see his face. They were just listening because of the camera setup or whatever it was. She wasn't looking at anything. She was just listening to Piers Morgan. So we thought, well, that's fun. Now, we thought we might as well try our luck and send an email to Carole Baskin posing as the Jimmy Fallon show, which we did. And we thought we'd never get a reply. This was at the time where Tiger King was literally the biggest show in the world.
And she'd not spoken to anyone, had she?
Hadn't spoken to anyone. She then replies going, well, turns out my daughter's your biggest fan, so I will do the interview. Get this interview set up. Now we make a soundboard full of Jimmy Fallon clips, sitting on this Zoom call, and there Carole Baskin, the woman I'd just been watching in Tiger King for months before, appears on the screen. And she starts having a conversation with an iPad, pretending to be Jimmy Fallon. She gives a great interview. She talks about all sorts of different things. It's very funny. She actually sends us loads of unseen images for us to publish on the show, which are like from her previous marriage, and like show loads of photos with her just posing with different types of cats. It was really, really interesting. And Carole Baskin actually left a comment on the video saying like, love this great prank.
At least she was all right about it.
Yeah, because we left in her plug about her animal cat sanctuary charity, which is the whole reason she did it. And I guess that video got like tens of millions of views. So
yeah.
she got her she got her publicity for the charity.
Well, Archie was a massive part of that video.
Yeah.
Archie, for people that don't know, is pretty prevalent in your content, or has been in the past.
Yeah.
Didn't feature in the Lady Phillips doc. What was the impact of him being part of it? Because obviously he's got that ridiculously posh British or English accent where, was that part of fooling people, is how much they trusted his voice? I
think so. I think there was that thing of like, people just trusting a posh sort of English voice. And yeah, Archie was super instrumental in a lot of those prank videos that we did. We created like some really great stuff together. But ultimately, about a year ago, we realized we wanted to do slightly different things. Like, I think he was still quite interested in the more pranky, naughtier content, whereas I wanted to focus on building out the production company and going into documentaries. So we aren't working together anymore, but we're still friends, and we still have some great videos that we've made together that like obviously people can watch. What do you think is your favorite like Archie moment from all the videos? I think his role he played in that Carole Baskin video where he plays the role of the producer of the late shows,
Yeah.
stalling the talent and saying, like, Margaret, just hold on a second, we're just waiting for comms. He's
And it's
really,
all just
really
improvised, all off his head.
Yeah, he's a very strong improviser. He's a magician as well.
That's right. And
So,
I never realized that about him until I started researching for this episode.
yeah. So
Is he a good magician?
when he's sober? Yeah, yeah. He's a master of deceit.
So
very good.
Yeah, and you said you kind of part ways, but still friends. Do you have any plans for the future to try and get back together and do something, or could you see him being involved in some of your documentary stuff in the future?
I think the documentary stuff's definitely more solo for me. It's just something I'm really enjoying doing on my own that I want to focus on. And then Archie was never super interested in like building a production company and going into advertising, which is completely fair enough. So for the moment, we're just friends, but not working together.
Fair. Let's take a look at our next headline.
How YouTuber Josh Pieters fooled Katie Hopkins with elaborate prank, including speech that left him lost for words.
Yeah, so that's the campaign to unify the nation trophy. Katie Hopkins, quite a controversial character. She's essentially a far-right commentator. What was the reason that you kind of targeted Katie for this, where essentially you got her to an award ceremony and unveiled it, which obviously the initials were CUNT.
Yes.
So how did that all come about? Why did you choose to target Katie?
She was someone I'd been aware of for a while. I remember seeing a post she'd done, though, which I think earned her a trophy, truly, which was a really devastating image of I think 4-year-old child washed up on the beach in Calais, I think, who had been on a boat that was trying to cross. And Katie Hopkins did a post insinuating that this was a set-up press opportunity to help English people sympathize with immigrants, which was quite something. And I remember seeing that and thinking that she's a big advocate of free speech and that you should be able to say what you want. And considering she was saying those things, it made me want to exercise my own free speech and present her with a very special award. That was a crazy, again, like seat of your pants, like heart pumping evening. We went to Prague, invited her to Prague for this award ceremony, rented a conference room at the Four Seasons Hotel, hired 10 actors, set up a whole fake award ceremony. There were speeches, there was a 3-course meal, and there was the trophy ceremony where Katie won her award. And she had no idea that anything was wrong until the video went out.
Really?
She actually went home sort of showing her trophy up to the sky and waving goodbye to us. I think one of the funniest comments I saw on the video was I'm picturing Katie Hopkins watching this video, slowly standing up, removing her trophy from the mantelpiece and putting it in the bin, which was funny.
Was there ever any time during that where you almost kind of got caught?
No, except for when she came in. She arrived like 15 minutes early, and I was putting a microphone into the ceiling. Like there was a panel in the ceiling, and we were just putting in extra like backup microphones. And she walked in, and she was like, "What are you doing up there?" And I was just like, "Oh, what are you doing down there?" Just fixing the lights, and it was fine. But other than that, we rehearsed it a lot, so it was like a pretty well rehearsed evening.
What was she like as a person?
She was very personable, funny, charming, quite a nice person. I think a lot of influential people like her tend to be that way.
Yeah.
It's how they get people on side. But obviously, a lot of her views were quite interesting.
Yeah, conflicting.
Yeah. She made an Instagram post saying, "It's not the first time in my life I've been called a but it's the first time in my life I've been called a by someone ginger, which was actually pretty funny. So, fair enough. But then I ran into her, which was crazy. A year later, I used to live near the American Embassy in London, and that's where the BLM protests were happening in 2020. And she was there. I don't know what she was doing, documenting it or whatever. And I was walking to get like food, and literally walked straight past her. And I was just like, oh my God. I don't know why I thought I should go talk to her, but I was like, I have to. Yeah. I can't just pretend I haven't seen her. So I walked up to her and it was just like, hi. And she was like, she kind of took me off guard. I don't know if she'd seen me earlier. And she was like, hello. And I was like, how are you? And she was like, I'm fine, thank you. How are you? And I was like, yeah, good. Any thoughts on the video? And she was just like, I have nothing to say to you. And I was like, right. And then walked off. It was super awkward. But I don't know. I just felt like because I'd done that video, it just felt cowardly to like walk past her and not. I wanted to like give her a right of like, I don't know, sure, say what you want to say, or like, is there anything you want to discuss? Which I don't know why I did, but I did, and that's what happened. But nothing really came of it.
Do you ever feel guilty when it comes to pranks and doing pranks on certain people?
I guess it would vary from. I wouldn't say I feel guilty and I don't regret it, but in the case of Katie Hopkins, I think if anyone deserves a bit of satire pointed their way, it is her. But at the end of the day, it still would have been an unpleasant experience for her when that video went out. And I guess that's part of the reason I'm moving away from making that kind of content, because as much as she did deserve it, and I think it was warranted, I still just don't want to be the person dishing that out to people. I'll leave that to Sacha Baron Cohen, because he seems to be able to just do that. You know, when she'd received the award, I was feeling a bit like, oh, she's kind of nice. Like, is this really justified? And then she got up and delivered a real corker of a speech. And I think as she was delivering that speech, I was reminded as to sort of why we'd done what we'd done. So yeah, the speech was crazy, but it was also like kind of weird because we were all obviously pretending to be like-minded people. So, you know, we had to be laughing and sort of cheering it on. But yeah, that sort of, I think, justified the whole stunt for me.
One of your more recent pranks, until you moved into the documentary space, was Just Stop Oil.
YouTube pranksters are actually behind viral "Stop Pissing People Off" protest.
Interestingly, I believe I may have been heavily involved in this article.
Oh, really?
Because when it happened, I remember seeing on the news or somewhere on social media, and it was like, there's people counter-protesting Just Stop Oil. And I was like, that's Josh Pieters. And that's
you spotted my face.
And I spotted Archie with his headset in, and I was like, this thing's a prank.
Yeah.
So actually, I think we wrote this based on us working out that it was actually you guys there.
You guys broke it.
I think we did actually, yeah. And I believe I got contacted by people from Sky and other places being like, can you confirm it's them? I was like, yeah, it's them.
Yeah, so this was during the summer 2023, when Just Stop Oil was super prevalent. They were doing everything they could to get their message heard, but some people thought that what they were doing was actually counterproductive. They were repeatedly stopping traffic, repeatedly stopping people from getting to work. Videos were emerging of people trying to get to hospital, trying to just get to work, trying to do whatever they needed to do on their day and not being able to because Just Stop Oil said there were more important matters at hand, and that was the climate crisis we were finding ourselves in. Now, I think it was the sort of mood of the nation just about that. As much as we all can agree that climate change is a serious issue, what they were doing time and time again wasn't actually helping. And in fact, it was making more people go, I don't actually care about climate change. I just need to get to work so I can feed my family. And I think it was what made the decision for us to pull this prank on them, which was ultimately harmless. It was just giving them a sort of a bit of a taste of their own medicine. But the thing that made us decide to do it was we found out that they were hosting a banquet to celebrate their success of the summer, which you see in the video. We let off some personal safety alarms attached to balloons, and it was a very tall building, so the balloons floated up to the ceiling, and we disrupted their event. They said it was great action design, actually. They complimented us on it. But looking back on the Just Stop Oil video now, it is one that I'm slightly conflicted on. I do think they were a group that earned the right to be satirized. I think the fact that they were having a banquet to celebrate their success was weird and just hypocritical. However, I am fully aware of the fact that climate change is a real problem, and they are, for all the bad things you can say about them, they're trying to help. I know their intentions are good. I just think they were going about it in the wrong way. So for that reason, I feel like slightly conflicted over it, because you're kind of satirizing people who are trying to do the right thing. Mm-hmm. But in my mind, they were going about it in the complete wrong way. And that's why I'm still like half and half on that video. But it is funny.
Josh, thanks for coming on Clickbaited. It's been great having you. Thanks for taking a look through your career through headlines. And we really look forward to seeing what you're going to do in the future. For everyone watching at home, please like and subscribe.
Thanks very much. Bye.